Hi, I'm Catherine Welch. I am the news director at WMFE, and for many years I've been jamming microphones into people's faces, like this baseball guy. This is Kurt Schilling. And as a member of the media, I've been watching this new national pastime of people, as Eddie said, kind of hating on us and bashing us. So I thought tonight what I would do is talk really quickly and go back in time and give you a fair and balanced account of the media, because sometimes we do deserve to have Bernie fans and Trump hate CNN all at once. They found a common ground. But sometimes we've done a lot of good. So I'm going to go all the way back to the election of 1800, because if you thought the last one was nasty, this one was nasty. So Jefferson was Adams' vice president, and he decided to run for president. And then the insults started flying. Adams was described as a hermaphrodite in the papers. Jefferson was called the half illegitimate son of an Indian squaw or something like that. And then it just kind of went downhill from there. But here's the thing, they didn't actually said that. There was a journalist for hire who actually put those insults into the papers. So it was kind of fake news 1800s style. Now, the media didn't stop drumming up flamed up elections. We also helped usher in the first coup d'etat on U.S. soil. It happened in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898. This is an illustration that ran in the Raleigh News of Observer. And the newspapers across North Carolina stirred up white fear against newly elected black officials. There was an insurrection in Wilmington, North Carolina, and that ushered in the Jim Crow era. We also did things like create a moon hoax. So this is an illustration that ran in the New York Sun in 1835. This is life on the moon, naked winged people and unicorns running around on the moon. Why? Why so many stories about this? Because it sold lots of newspapers. And these guys said, great idea. This is Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst, two big dudes with two big egos running two big papers in New York City, battling each other for the highest circulation numbers. So what did they do? Made up crazy stories and put big headlines on them. It was called yellow journalism. And Hearst decided to take it up a notch. He wrote not so truthful things about the difficulties between Spain and its colony Cuba, and basically started the Spanish-American War, because that's something that would go on day after day, week after week, month after month. People would follow the saga and buy a lot of newspapers. He famously said, supply the pictures and I'll supply the war. Speaking of wars, journalists covered the battlefield of World War II. But what's interesting is all of their stories had to go through this Office of Information that gleaned out the bad news from the battlefront. I'm not quite sure what's left after you glean out the bad stuff from the battlefront, but it happened. Let's fast forward to the 1960s. This is an ad that ran in the New York Times. Somebody sued the Times over this ad. And what you need to know about it is that the ruling came down in the favor of the paper. And what it essentially did is raise a higher bar to prove that you've been libeled in the newspaper, which was great for journalists because they can then be a little more aggressive, like these two guys, Woodward and Bernstein, who busted the lid off of Watergate. And if you think about it, it was journalists who told us about the deadly wait lines at VA hospitals. It was journalists who told us about the Catholic Church sex scandal. It was journalists who told us about Pitbull's lucrative contract with Visit Florida. This guy isn't an investigative journalist. He's my dad. And you can tell by the hair, he was in the 1970s. He was a television guy. And he had to wait for his film to be developed. So he sat and smoked a cigarette and thought about his story. He had time to do that, which as his daughter, I don't have, because I'm filling these. These are content silos. This is Twitter, this is Facebook, this is Instagram. Oh, I have to take a picture and a video and try to do this web first, and oh yeah, I need to file a radio story. So while all of us journalists are filling all of these social media content silos, the people we're covering are using them to end run around us. President Obama was famous for this. This picture was not taken by a White House press photographer. It was taken by his photographer. Obama was on Instagram, Obama was on Flickr, Obama was doing Google Hangouts, and it seemed novel at the time, but the president was tweeting. Now we all kind of wish the president would not tweet. And that brings us to the last election. It was basically social media on steroids gone evil. Do I even have to recount it? I think we can all pretty much remember the crazy that happened over the last 2 years, including a lot of junk on Twitter. RuPaul? Who decided to bring RuPaul in this? And the poor Pope, he's like, wait, what? Well, who wrote these crazy fake tweets? Some of it was Russians, some of it was bots, but don't forget there were also fake newspaper sites, and the New York Times actually found a person behind one of those sites, and his name is Cameron Harris, and he had student loan debts, so he created a site. He discovered that terrible stories about Hillary sold, and he sold more than $100,000 worth of ads and was able to pay off his student loans. So who can we trust? Because, back in the way before my day, but still back in the day, we had Uncle Walter. There were 3 networks, there were 3 anchors. We basically all knew we could trust what we were being told. But now we have so many news outlets, we have all the social media outlets. What's right? What's wrong? How do we know? It's all coming at us so quickly. And as I was telling a friend of mine about this Pachakacha talk, he said this, and I'm going to stop and let you read it. Because I want you to think about this. Every time you look at your Facebook feed, every time you look at your Twitter feed, you may love the headline and the contents of the story, but have you heard of that news site? How do you know for sure that is true? Because all of us right now, we are now all Uncle Walter. We are all now deciding what is being curated on the internet through shares and retweets and likes. So the next time you want to share a story that might not be true, ask yourself, do I want to be a part of a moon hoax?